Well, hello, avid readers. Trisha Goyer here, and I have a old friend or familiar friend. I guess we should say familiar friend instead of old. Bryan Timothy Mitchell is here. We're talking about his book, Almost Paradise, although we'll probably talk a little bit about Internal Fall also. But first of all, Bryan, welcome. And why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, uh, Bryan Mitchell. I grew up here in the Southeast. I'm right in North Carolina right now. I was born in Martinsville, Virginia, though, but kind of stayed where I'm at for a while. I was in the military for about 11 to 12 years. Some of it was reserves, but honestly, it was a great transformative experience for me being in the military. Now I live here in Archdale where it's snowing for the first time in such a while. We're so excited about snow today. But have two boys. He's 12. This is my oldest. He's 12. He just had his first wrestling match and he won it yesterday. So congratulations, Eli.
Oh, that's fun. Yay.
Yes. Yes, my youngest, he really looks up to his brother, and he's a big Sonic the Hedgehog fan. That's James. And then there's my most supportive person in the world, my wife. She's downstairs and she's smiling ear to ear. She can't wait to see this interview. Thank you, family. You guys are wonderful. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I'm a family guy, kind of stay close to home, staring at snow and writing books. That's what I like to do.
Oh, that's good. But yeah, and staring at snow today because like both of us are places we don't usually get snow. So we have a ton of it outside. That makes it super fun.
Oh
All right,
yeah.
so we are going to be talking about Almost Paradise. But first, I think you're going to have to tell a little bit about book 1 because book 2 picks up right where book 1 leaves off. So just maybe explain the premise of both your books and then we'll dive deeper into book 2.
All right. Yes. So Infernal Fall won the Rim Award for Best Paranormal and Supernatural a couple of years ago. And it is a modern day retelling of Dante's Inferno. Not so dark and gory, but it's a fun story that explores uh, the, the nine circles of the Inferno. And my characters grew a lot from that, but there's still some things to be done. So there's book two, Almost Paradise. Now, in book one, in Dante's world, he says, abandon all hope, all you who enter these gates. But in this book, I want people to not lose hope if they're in a dark place. This is more of a, I think of it more
Mhm.
as an allegory. When I was in Iraq, I didn't lose hope. I felt God was with me. And
Mm.
that's what I want readers to remember. If you're in a dark place, never lose hope. God is with you. God is working, always working. Now, in Almost Paradise, when you get out of that, what gave me the idea about this book was PTSD and some of the things that follow you home from a bad time. And that can kind of linger. You can always get trapped on looking back in the past and the things you should have done and things that could have done, the wrongs that were done to you. That's what makes it harder to fly it's harder to fly than to fall. And that's what led me to writing this book and these characters. I had so much fun with this one. In the Fertile Fall, I was really honed in on writing a really good book. It was my first book. I did a lot of research on the Inferno by Dante. I included C.S. Lewis's The Great Divorce in it, just trying to be very knowledgeable in those things and also writing the best I could. But in Almost Paradise, I just had so much fun. I didn't do any planning. I sat down as I was just sitting down and I just started writing and it was very entertaining to me and it was very eye opening. It was like God was my muse. He was right over my shoulder. He was helping me through this book and I learned so much about myself and learned so much about the process of writing in a way where you just sit down and go with it. I think there's a little bit of faith involved with that and a little bit of hope too.
Mhm.
So writing this novel was a real joy to me. I had a lot of fun with it.
It's a real joy to write about hell. I guess we could put that quote out there. I don't know.
Well, Almost Paradise takes place in our world. This is he's made at home and he's realizing the world for the first time, and he's seeing some things. So he's wanting to find a way to help others because he's seeing how
Mm-hmm.
demons are influencing other people's lives, and he wants to help them. And he sees how they're harming his life too. But he also sees a plan that's coming because where he had fallen into the inferno was at Grandfather Mountain. It's a little bit
Yep.
about 2 to 3 miles away from where I live. I love that place. And from where he fallen, there's this plan back in the inferno that they want to go back up the way he had fallen, thinking that they can make it back into the real world. And he's like, oh no, this can't happen, we got to do something about it. So he, and one of my favorite characters from the first book, Heartless Charles, he becomes a pivotal part in the story. And Bo, who is learning more about his past and the reasons why he didn't go to heaven when he had passed away. They're on a transformative journey. All three of them have their own story arc where they are coming closer to God and also attacking darkness head on the best ways that they can. But they also find out that you cannot always rely on slinging stones. So that's what Daniel had with him through the inferno.
Mm-hmm.
Had a keystone that helped him along the way, and it came back with him, and he's thinking that he can rely on that to fight against the darkness, to protect himself, to protect the ones who he loves. But sometimes it's not that. Sometimes there's another way in order to help those around us. So yeah, I've been told that some of the folks who judged the category for last year's Railmakers, they hadn't read Infernal Fall. They said that they picked up
Oh,
on it pretty
really?
quickly. Yeah, they said they picked up on it pretty quickly in Almost Paradise, which is great because that was my aim. I wanted folks to be able to read this book in case if they weren't familiar with Infernal Fall at all, or if they were just like a little hesitant about the Inferno journey. So I've been told by multiple people that they hadn't read Infernal Fall and they understood exactly where everything was going and how things might have turned out in Infernal Fall. And a couple of them said that they were going to go back and read it after they read the
Yeah.
second book. Yeah.
Yeah, I read the first book, which is, again, going to Realm Makers, these were genres I never picked up before, and I like the whole thing. Listened in audiobook was totally fascinating. I love Jim Rubart too, and his narration was excellent. But I'm like, I cannot believe I like this is. I'm more of a historical prairie romance. I'm a romance type of person. Like those are my safe spots. I was so fascinated, and there's like humor, which you think about how can there be humor, but there's lightness and humor touches in it, and even I'm about I think 5 chapters in Almost Paradise, and we see the same characters again. But again, it's interesting because you take these characters like Charles, but you think, I'm not going to really enjoy this guy, like getting deeper in his thoughts, but then you do. Like, what is the pain and what did he struggle with? And going back home, I mean, it's so interesting that these concepts I think Frank Peretti kind of did like the demons and the angels and added those types of things to fiction, so we're used to it. I think you've taken it a different level though to kind of get more into their thoughts, not just as pure evil versus pure good, but really kind of I don't know how to explain it. Um, Bringing more depth of character to some of these people. So explain the main characters, the point of view characters in Almost Paradise, so that readers can just get a glimpse of who they are and kind of their struggles.
Right. So Charles Charles was one of the entities. He's really a human being. He was put in hell. He ended up in hell, and he helped Daniel get through the inferno. But he had ulterior motives. But because he had helped Daniel, he received some things that's not really told in the books. He's given some opportunities, so he ends up in the world as a disembodied spirit. He's able to see things and interact with things in some senses, but he no one can see him. So
Mhm.
he's been given a job by some dark entities that he has to go and ruin Daniel's life. And he already has it in his mind, like, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to take advantage of this opportunity. I'm here in the world for the first time in a long time. I'm going to enjoy myself. But at the same time, he has to kind of walk this fine line between the darkness that wants him to do bad things and what he wants to do himself. He's still kind of pretty selfish about what he wants to do and how he wants to be, but he also has a little bit of loyalty to Daniel as well. So he's interacting in this world as a spirit. And Daniel, he's in this world, but he also has the thoughts of where he was in the inferno, and it's troubling him. He's
Mhm.
having a hard time sleeping. He wakes up in the middle of the night and he has a frightful experience, and he does what he promises himself he would do. He would go back home and make amends with his parents because ahead of the events that led to infernal fall, he had a fallout with his parents, and he ran away from home. So now he's running back home, hoping that that's what he needs to do in order to stop seeing things that he doesn't want to see. He's seeing spirits and he's seeing things that are bothering him. So he goes home and he finds out that while that is helpful, it's not exactly everything that he needs to do in order to stop these things from seeing these things. Some things he needs to do is embrace what he can do and try to use it for good. And that's what he has to come to terms with. But reuniting with his parents and finding not just the bad things around, but the good things around. There's good things that are going to come to him. There's good people, good entities that are going to be ready to help him along the way. That's his story arc. But he's also still wanting to propose to Christine. He's not sure how he's going to do it. And he had just run back home the very night that he had come back from the
Mhm.
Inferno. And then there's Bo. Bo was trapped in the Inferno, and he was told that he could get on the bus in Grayton in order to go to heaven. That's my little shout out to C.S. Lewis. But what happens is he doesn't see a bus. He sees a guy in a cardboard box. And that
And
was
that is
my
a funny that's a funny like, a funny scene. Like, the whole yeah.
Yeah, yeah, this is my little shout out to imagination because when I was a kid,
Yeah.
a box could be anything. It could be a bus, it could be an airplane, it could be a boat, it could be a number of things. So I wanted to use that. And he goes on a journey to get to heaven by examining what he did wrong in his past. So he has an angel named Ralph with him who's kind of walking him back through his past to help him understand what went wrong and see if he can come to terms with. And a lot of folks who leave from the Inferno don't make the journey because they don't want to face the past. So
Mm.
Ralph is there to kind of help nudge him along and guide him, but Bo also has to face the things that hurt him in the past, and that's the challenge he's facing. So they're all on three different kinds of journeys. Bo's in his past uh, as a little disembodied spirit, seeing himself grow back up into a full grown man and seeing his whole life story, uh, remembering everything. Charles is a spirit who's been sent back to do some bad things by bad entities, but is he really? Is it maybe there's some good that's allowed him to come be in that position? And maybe they're trying to trick him and think, oh, no, 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 you have to do this. We let this happen. And then there's Daniel, who's in this world and he's seen all these things and he's wanting to come to terms with it. But it's almost paradise. They're almost there. They're trying to get there. Will they get there?
We'll find out. I'm not there yet. I'm not done with the book, so we'll see. We'll see. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think so many people might say, like, why are you writing about this? Like, why do we want to write about paranormal stuff? And I will add some comments because I have teenagers that, if I handed them, like I said, a prairie romance, a historical novel, they would be like, or not, they're not teenagers anymore, they're in their early 20s, but they'd be like, no, I didn't want to read that. But there's there's lots of books out there that share about these types of things in a not healthy way without a biblical perspective that have all kinds of dark things that kids are drawn to or young people are drawn to or older people are drawn to. um so let's talk about, as a Christian and a writer, what is your desire about writing about the paranormal, other than, the Bible is filled with all types of all types of spirits and entities and
Yeah.
angels and demons, but what is your heart behind choosing this to be what you want to write about?
These stories, they just kind of come to me. They feel like they're the stories I'm meant to write, and I enjoy
Mhm.
writing them. My main goal is to help people, not just to entertain them, but find new and interesting stories. As far as when it comes to angels and demons, I don't want anyone to just go down a dark path because I'm writing it. I'm not trying to trick anyone off the path from
Mhm.
God. But the thing is sometimes we have to face hard things in life. Some things are dark.
Yeah.
Some things are natural. Some things are naturally hard on us. And when it
Mhm.
comes to these paranormal things, I grew up when I grew up. My mom practiced Wicca, and I seen her
Mm.
transform from that, where she couldn't stand anything about Christianity. I couldn't understand. It's like out of nowhere, she just uh, was really entranced by witchcraft. And then years and years later, like after we loved each other, but I would debate her and have these conversations. Oftentimes. Had us go in separate rooms, but still loving each other. One day she just wakes up and looks outside and she just has this thought, like, only God can make a day this beautiful. And she's like, oh, wow, it's God. It's not this witchcraft stuff. This is all God. It's like she always knew God was
Wow.
real, but she dove so hard back into Christianity and came so much closer with God at that point in time. I was amazed. I was like, really? You just looked outside. That's all it was. And she said, I know how it sounds. It sounds silly. And I was like, we had all these conversations. I know I said something intelligent in there at some point. And she was like, no, I just looked outside. It's a beautiful day, and only God could have made that day beautiful. Okay. I didn't get it for the longest time. I was stuck in traffic one day, though, and I was really upset. I couldn't get to school the way I normally would go. And my professor, the very first class that I was going to, he was like, if you're late to class, that is a big no. I don't. He was like very upset with anyone who's really late. And I was in the military. I was Army Reserves. I was a former drill instructor, and so 15 minutes was on time. 15 minutes before being there, that's on time. If you're 5 minutes
Right.
early, that's
Right.
late. But here I am stuck in traffic. I'm going to be late if I don't turn left right here at this point in time. But I couldn't. They wouldn't let me over. The people in the lane, it's like, nope. I'm like, okay, I have to keep going straight. And I was like, that's fine. There's another way. And just saying that is just like something spoke to me. And I can't remember anything else from that day. I know I made it to class on time somehow. I didn't speed, I promise. I was obeying traffic laws, I promise. But I do know that I felt so much peace after that moment, because that just saying there's another way uh, helped me so much. So sometimes we might end up in a grocery store and someone might be cursing and yelling, and sometimes we might have our children at a carnival and we're having fun, and then folks start fighting. I've seen that, and I don't go back to that particular carnival anymore. It's like a local carnival. Oh, the snow's coming down so nice right now. But at that carnival, someone pulled out a gun and like fired it in the air, and everyone was scattering. I didn't want to see that. I wasn't prepared for that. But I saw a police officer, really big guy, just marching his way toward the danger. And that really was
Mm.
inspiring to me. Sometimes we have to face those things. And I think it's good to be prepared. And I'm not trying to force anyone to see darkness or anything, but it's out there. But we are
Mhm.
strong spiritual people, and God is with us. Jesus died for us. The Holy Spirit is with us, and it's part of who we are to shine our light in this world. And I think it shines brighter in the darkness. Right now, I'm in a lit room. Everything is nice. If I'm down in the basement, yeah, it's dark, it's spooky, it's creepy, and it's cool. But God is still with me. I'm still shining, and I think that's great. And I think that's why some folks, when they are in jail, they come out and they're spiritually energized because they found God while they were in that darkness.
Yeah, I think it's so true that, it would be nice if I have 10 kids. It would have been nice if every single one of them, when we took them to church, listened to everything, obeyed everything we told them, never made a bad choice, never had friends that were making bad choices. But sometimes their part of their testimony is going to be the hard stuff. And I was praying for one of my kids specifically that was going through a hard time, that was making not good choices. And just felt God speak to my spirit. Answered prayer isn't a quick fix. He had her story and she was in his hand, but part of her story is going to be going through the darkness and finding the light and coming to him. And that just gave me such peace. And once I just um understood that and just loved her, just continued to love her, like our relationship's gotten closer. She's not completely making all the good choices now. But that's going to be part of her story, and that's a different route than I would have wanted for my kids. There's some that just from the beginning have followed God, they're serving as missionaries, like completely opposite. But God has a plan for all of us, and our stories, our testimonies, the dark times can often reach other people going through hard times, and bring them the light. And so I think it's so important. Like your mom's testimonies, who knows, one day when someone will just wake up and see the light and find it. But I love that your stories can give us a glimpse of that, give us things to think about, give us things to consider, um, be able to hand these books to people that would never pick up a different type of Christian novel that can also speak truth and get them to be aware of maybe some of the spiritual forces around them. And the thing is, the Bible talks about these things all over the place. So it's not like ignoring them can just mean it doesn't happen. And because it's a good reminder that we need to pray more and seek God and seek His Holy Spirit and ask Him to protect us, and because these things are happening all around us.
Oh yeah, here's something that came to me while I was writing it. While we do sin, we are not our sin. That's why we're able to be forgiven. And that's why
Hmm.
Jesus died for us, so that we could be forgiven. So I've made many mistakes in my past. And the
Hmm.
thing that the devil wants most is for me to remember the things I've done in the past that made me think poorly of myself and made others think poorly of me. And there's moments in this story. One of the things that drove Daniel away from his father was he went out drinking. Well, his father used to be an alcoholic and joined AA, and he was really hard on his son on not drinking, making really good decisions.
Hmm.
But he was really tough on him about it. And one of the things when I studied in psychology when I was in school was that sometimes alcoholism can skip a generation, and I was always curious about how it would do that. And sometimes that is because the parents can be really overbearing and be like, don't, and at the same time, it should be done with more love and less with fear. So, Daniel's father did it with fear, and so when he came home drinking, he was really tough on Daniel. So Daniel ran away. At the same time, Daniel knew he was wrong. His father knew he was wrong, and Daniel's dad has still has that demon speaking in his ear that Daniel could see, saying, you can still go out and get a drink. It's not illegal. You can go right down there and get a six pack. You have the money. Just go ahead and do it. But Daniel's father would sink into really bad things if he ever did. But he doesn't listen to the demon, hadn't touched a drink since his son was born. But Daniel sees it. Daniel sees him just sitting there talking to him like, just go ahead and do that. Just go ahead. Why not? It wouldn't
Mm.
hurt you. But when he doesn't, that spirit actually gets more decrepit and old and more upset. So I have some more fun with it than making it so serious because when Daniel sees him, the spirit doesn't realize that he's being seen by Daniel because no man has ever seen him before. They just hear his thoughts. They think their thoughts are
Hmm.
they think that the words he's saying are their thoughts. So he's surprised that Daniel can
Hmm.
see him. So they have this conversation, and it's quite fun. I don't want to spoil it. So
I'm
uh,
not there yet. I'm not at that part
yeah,
yet, so
yeah,
I
I kind of I'm
gotta.
spoiling a little bit, but I don't want to go into too much of the
Don't tell me
conversation.
more.
It's
Yeah.
it's a fun conversation, but I do believe that sometimes one of the things that comes like sometimes I could be sitting around like, "Ah, I can't believe I did that when I was 12 years old. I'm 46. Why am I worried about something that I did so long ago and I knew it was wrong and I've grown from it?
Hmm.
So I think sometimes there's things that just kind of nudge you, like, you remember how you did something this, you did something that, and when people do that to you, we don't like it when we do that. When we do it to ourselves, it's like, why am I doing this to myself? It's kind of like torture, and I think that's more like how the bad things are trying to get you to say, no, you're not good enough. You're never going to be good enough. But there's so much
Hmm.
good that comes too. Like when I'm sitting in my car and out of nowhere, there's a better way. That comes to me and it's like peace for
Yeah.
forever. I still, when I think of that moment, the presence comes. Like I feel the Holy
Hmm.
Spirit right now, and I hope everyone has that. I hope everyone feels that kind of peace. And yeah, that's what inspires me to write this. Like, how does this come out? This doesn't just come out of nowhere. It's
Right.
just so cool. And yeah, uh, so that's part of what inspires me to write these kinds of stories.
I love that. So you have Infernal Fall, you have Almost Paradise. Are you working on a third book or are you working on something else?
I'm working on some other things. So I have another book story that I'm working on. It's going to be more in the vein of these. It's going to be a while. Right now, I'm working actually on a middle grade book, and it
Okay.
is all about imagination and fun. It's pretty much done, but I am dialing it up. We authors always like to dial it up, make it better, and so I think I should be finished with it and within the next couple of weeks, and I'm going to be having that available hopefully in the near future. But it's a fun story. It's called "If He Eats Monsters for Breakfast," so I
Okay.
think it'll be a lot of fun. It's more in the vein of Spiderwick Chronicles
Oh
versus
yeah.
uh, goosebumps kind of thing, but it's more about imagination than spooky stuff. It's using your imagination to have fun in the world where things seem dull, but it could actually be a lot more fun if you see all the colors in it. Uh, yeah, and also the things that might scare us might not be as scary as you think they are. So there's some of that. That's where the goosebumps part comes in. So I'm
That
excited
sounds
about that.
really fun. That sounds really fun. I think of some of my grandsons.
Oh yeah,
One's
yeah.
13.
Actually,
I think he'd really like that. Yeah.
it's a spin-off from this here, so I'll keep
Okay.
quiet there. So it's kind of still in the story world of Infernal Fall. I'm gonna have more stories kind of related to this, but I want to branch out and write other things too. And but this is these books right here are the first two that I've ever published. And I love the story world. I love the characters so much. I'm gonna come back to them every now and then. just have to.
Well,
They
I love and when and I mean, first books and award winners, so there's that.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. They're great
Oh,
characters. I never give them
and-
credit. Those characters did such wonders in the story. Thank you guys. They did
yeah,
a good
thank you.
job.
Thank you for just showing up. Okay, so Brian, where can people go to find out more about you and your books? And I am super excited about this new one that's coming out too. So where can we go to get more information?
BryanTimothyMitchell.com. And on there, I just started doing poor poetry, like the pretty little kitty kitties,
Oh
alliteration,
my.
assonance galore. And it's just a little side of me that's completely not that at all. So I have some poor poetry on there. I just started doing it. There's like 3 entries, and I'm also doing some really whimsical stream of consciousness kind of news articles that are just really silly because there's so much going on up here, and I just like need to spill it out every now and then, get it going so I can focus on the more serious stuff that I want to write. So I have that on there, and I also have a newsletter that you can subscribe to on the website. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram. I don't do a whole lot on social media. I get on there every now and then. I should do more, but I'm doing most of my work on my website now. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, that sounds super fun. I love and I'm telling you, even though these books have those darker elements, there is a lot of humor and fun. I guess we could call it fun, and I could see that of your personality with like this middle grade and the poor poetry. It just seems like it's just scratching the surface of who you are. I think we could be looking forward to more fun, deep, intense stuff coming. So that's exciting.
Yeah, yeah. If you enjoy Pretty Little Kitty Kitty, imagine how much you like Infernal Fall.
Like,
It's
there
only,
you go. That's so funny. Well, Brian, thank you so much for being here today.
oh, thank you. It's an honor. I always enjoy seeing you and getting a chance to chat with you.
Thanks so much.